Hey folks, if you take a look over my shoulder right there, there's something different in the background, and clearly if you read the title of this video, you know that I got a 3D printer. And I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to show you it, talk about it, and why I got it, and what I did to get a $100 3D printer. So first off, what is it? It's an Ender 3 Pro. There's another version out, there's a newer one, there's bigger ones, smaller ones, whatever, but Ender kind of makes really nice 3D printers that you build yourself. So that's part one of why this thing was only $100, because it's not a pre-built printer. Every printer that I've used in the past, I have a Dremel at school, and I also have a couple of MakerBots. Those were all pre-built. All you do is take them out of the box, plug them in, you're ready to go. This one, not so much the case. It takes a little while to go through and actually build it, get it leveled out, get all of the pieces kind of fine-tuned. If your level of doing that stuff is there, it's a great deal. If it's not there, it might be better to go with a higher end machine or a higher cost machine that's pre-built, or just have somebody build it for you. But luckily for me, I possess the skill set to follow directions and internet videos, and I can go through and build it. So this thing actually retails at $200, and I got it at Micro Center, and I was browsing Facebook one day, as one does, found a ad from Micro Center that said, hey, fill this out and get $100 off this $199 printer. So I did. I wasn't sure if it was actually gonna work or not, but I went down to my local Micro Center. It works, so I have the receipt, $100 printer. Awesome. So this printer, again, you have to build it all yourself. So what it comes with is a lot of metal, a lot of things that are kind of pre-built, but kind of you gotta do some things. And the instructions were annoying, a little bit complicated, because there's pieces that could fit either way and they look like they would work. So there's a lot of building and unbuilding. But it took me probably about an hour and a half, all told, between watching a few internet videos, looking at the terrible online instructions, to kind of go through and build this thing. As far as what else it came with a bunch of tools. There's snippers, there's a squeeger, there's a whole bunch of stuff to help you with 3D printing. And then it comes with a little test roll of filament as well. And also it comes with a little micro SD card. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but the last thing you want to do is get ready to print. You've built your printer, you're ready to go, and you realize you have no way to have your printer communicate with the outside world. So it did come with that little SD card. It's nothing big deal. It's not a state-of-the-art one. It's not fast, it's not large, but it does everything I needed to do for 3D printing. So this printer is not super feature-packed. It does not have a self-leveling auto bed, so it doesn't have that. You can add that on, but for another $50, you're spending a lot of money to add that feature, which may or may not be worth it to you. It does have a heated bed. Basically the bed, the bottom part gets warm and nice and hot, so it doesn't allow the prints to peel up and kind of come off like can be an issue with some other printers. It's also able to print PLA along with ABS. I don't ever print ABS, I always print PLA, but I have an option if I wanted to print ABS, which is kind of fun. Now, the big question is, why did I get this thing? And in all honesty, it's because it was a really good deal. I have access to 3D printers either through my local library or through school, but again, I don't want to really print a lot of personal stuff on those. I print things for school, and I often find myself wanting to solve a problem with something that I can print myself. So I wanted to go through and get a 3D printer so that I can solve those problems, and for $100, it was worth a shot. My first run of prints were really just a couple of test things. I did some 3D benchies, a couple other things, just to see how it worked. And then I went on to Thingiverse and found Hot Wheels stuff for my kid, because my kid is obsessed with cars, obsessed with Hot Wheels. And the number one thing that he was looking for was a cross track to have his cars be able to crash once they race down his Super 6-lane speedway. So I printed one of those. It worked great. I had to scale it down just a slight bit to be able to fit on the print bed, but other than that, it worked great. Now, often when I'm talking to my students or other people about 3D printing, they ask how you come up and actually do the 3D printing. Like, where do you get the files? What do you do? I personally like to create most of my files. I teach drafting work, so being able to create three-dimensional files that are printable, not a problem. I understand that world. But if you're not familiar with that world, there's a website called Thingiverse, and Thingiverse is fantastic. You can basically look up anything you want and you can go in. For me, the first thing you print when you get a 3D printer is stuff for your 3D printer. So I printed some cable kind of ties to make sure the cables stay away, because the cables on this thing are a mess otherwise. I printed a couple things to hold the tools, so we have that. And I have a couple other things I want to add, especially right there with that spool, how that wears. I want to kind of change a few things with that, but that's a message for a later time. Really, Thingiverse allows you to go through and download things for free and print them out to do whatever you might want to do with it. If you're feeling a little bit more adventurous and you want to try your own hand stuff, Fusion 360 is free and great. I also have access to Onshape, Autodesk Inventor, and also if you're looking for something a little simpler, Tinkercad is a great tool to be able to go through and print as well. All of these programs are 3D solid modeling programs. They will allow you to print things out and create STL files, which is what the software that I use does really well. So the Ender doesn't come with any software by default. You need to find some software that works. And there's lots of options out there. My favorite personally is Ultimate Cura. I think it's great. It's by far the best software, the easiest to use, and produces really, really good results. As I said, I have access to a Dremel and a MakerBot. The MakerBot software is fine. It's a little limited. The Dremel software is fine, but it's a little limited. The Cura software is amazing. You can fine tune everything, and the printer that I have is one of the presets in there, and they have hundreds of them. So if you have a 3D printer that you built yourself, chances are it's in that list, and you can go through and set stuff. But really, when you're looking at things like a raft where it's kind of prints on the bed and then builds it up, it kind of gives a bigger base for your print. It breaks off really easily, whereas I haven't had a great experience with it breaking off super easily on other 3D printers. The same go with the supports. The supports on this thing break off instantly. So if you have something that has a big overhang where it can't print nicely, this thing will auto-generate supports. It does them really nicely, and they break off and leave clean surfaces. I can't say enough about the software and also the printer. The two just work really nicely together. So what don't I like about this printer? There's not a lot. For $100, you're not really going to get a better machine. The only thing that I'm going to complain about is the sound. This thing is super loud. The stepper motors are incredibly loud. They don't have dampers on them. They don't have anything that really quiets them down. You can do some modifications to it to make it quieter, and I'm going to explore those down the road. But other than that, this thing so far has printed reliably, has printed quickly, and at a high resolution. So I'm really happy with what it is, and I can't wait to print more on it. If you have questions about 3D printing, creating files, the setup process, anything at all, please let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, I'll see you in our next video.